The median hourly wage in the US is about $16 per hour, or roughly $2,000 per month after taxes. Now, most people would assume that it would quite literally be impossible to retire a millionaire on such a low salary. But is it impossible? Well, the answer is no, because if it were impossible, then people like Ronald Reed and Grace Groner wouldn't have been able to build massive $8 million and $7 million fortunes while having a low salary. Ronald was a janitor who made a little over $20,000 per year, and Grace was a secretary not making much more. Clearly, they had some kind of a secret, right? Something that they knew that the rest of us don't know. Honestly, yes, I suppose it is kind of a secret, otherwise everybody would retire a millionaire. But that's not the case. In fact, only 16% of Americans retire with $1 million in savings. But that ends right now, because in this video, we're unlocking all the secrets to investing and becoming a millionaire on a low salary. Secret number 1, the secret wealth formula that makes the rich get richer. There's actually a formula that millionaires use to help them build their wealth. It's something that every millionaire does and understands about their money that literally nobody else does. And I'll illustrate the point with this graphic here. You see, the non-wealthy, when they get paid, the route that their money takes looks like this. Their income pays for their expenses, things like rent, mortgage, insurance, food, electricity, and then after they pay for their expenses, they buy or pay for liabilities. Things like consumer loans, credit card debt, a car, and yes, contrary to the incorrect belief, a mortgage. Your primary residence is not an asset because it does not make you money. If you were to, however, rent out part of your home to a tenant and that tenant paid rent which paid for the mortgage, then yes, your primary residence then becomes an asset. But outside of that, it's not an asset, it's a liability because it's taking money out of your pocket, okay? And so this is the money path of the non-wealthy. However, the money route for the wealthy looks like this. They get paid, their income pays for their expenses because literally nobody in the world has zero expenses. But after the expenses, this is where things get interesting. You see, because instead of spending their money on liabilities, things that take money out of their pocket, they instead buy assets, things that put money into their pockets. And so they buy things like stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses. But that's actually not even the interesting part. Here's where things start to get very juicy. You see, if we look at the non-wealthy graphic again, what happens to their money after they buy liabilities? Well, interestingly enough, those liabilities that they buy then circle around and become expenses. And oftentimes, these liabilities turn into recurring expenses. And so they get paid, their money travels down here and then back up here, and then it stops. This means in order for the non-wealthy to continue having enough money to pay for their expenses, they have to continue using their time to make money to fund their lifestyle. However, if we take a look at the wealthy graphic, this is where things get insane. You see, because remember, the wealthy are buying assets instead of liabilities. And so what path does their money take after they buy assets? Well, instead of coming up here and disappearing into thin air, their money actually moves back up here to the income column in the form of dividends from their stocks, interest from their bonds, rental income from real estate, and profits from their business. And so now, in addition to their main source of income, they have even more money that they can then reinvest back into buying even more assets, which then further increases how much income they have. And this cycle just continues on and on. And this right here is the reason why the rich get richer. Now, am I saying that you cannot buy nice things? No, absolutely not. I think that living a life where you can't enjoy the things that you want will make you miserable. However, you do need to understand the difference between an asset and a liability. If you want a bigger, nicer home or a faster car, first, buy assets that will generate enough income to pay for the mortgage on the bigger, nicer home or to pay for the car payment on the faster car. Secret number 2, they find a way to invest their money no matter what. The single biggest mistake that you can make financially is assuming that just because you have a low salary that you can't start investing, that you can only invest your money if you have a lot of money to invest. This is severely flawed logic because the point of investing your money is to grow your money. And so it doesn't matter if you're starting with $10,000 or $10, the point is just to start no matter what. I mean, seriously, think about this for a second. Roughly 80% of millionaires in America are first generation rich. As in, they didn't inherit their money, they started from nothing just like most people. If these millionaires who started from nothing said to themselves, you know what, I'm gonna wait until I become a millionaire before I start investing. People like Ronald Reed, who grew up on a poor farm and worked for minimum wage all of his life, would have never made millions of dollars because he would have said to himself, well, I grew up on a poor farm and I have a low salary job, and so I can't start investing. But he didn't believe that. He knew that if he could just implement the same secrets that other millionaires use, all of which we'll go over in this video, that he could become a millionaire even on a low salary. Now, I get it, okay? Self-made millionaires did not get to where they are Vanguard just by investing $10 into the stock market. No, of course not. It's a combination of investing, choosing the right investments, and some other secrets that they know that we'll go over in a little bit. But the third secret is that millionaires don't put all of their eggs into one basket, at least not if they want to get maximum returns. I mean, even in Grace's case, she invested in one single stock over a 75-year period and earned $7.2 million. However, if Grace would have diversified her portfolio more and invested broadly into the stock market and other assets, then she could have nearly quadrupled her wealth. For example, let's say that Grace invested $500 per month into a broadly diversified ETF, something like VTI or the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. This ETF holds over 4,000 stocks. And so when you buy even just one share of this ETF, you are immediately given your portfolio exposure to over 4,000 plus stocks. And with an average 8% return per year by investing $500 per month, she would have grown a net worth of over $25.8 million, significantly higher than the $7.2 million by just investing in Abbott stock. Now, this is a very generalized example, but the point that I'm trying to illustrate to you is that if you just consistently invest into the stock market over a long period of time with a diversified portfolio of stocks and other assets, that you can build wealth over time even on a low salary. Now, investing in the stock market is just one piece of the puzzle. Most millionaires today understand the importance of diversifying your portfolio even outside of the stock market. And unlike Ronald and Grace, who could really only invest in the stock market, we live in a time where buying assets outside of the stock market is more accessible than they have ever been before. And this is critical, especially during times of high inflation and rising interest rates when the stock market is taking a beating. And so buying assets like real estate and artwork can help protect you from inflation. The Mona Lisa. In fact, did you know that contemporary art prices have outperformed the S&P 500's total return by 164% over the past 26 years? And with a new emerging platform called Masterworks, you can now buy and sell fractional shares in high-value works of art. I mean, we're talking Picasso, Banksy, Basquiat, Monet, Warhol. Millionaires and billionaires have been quietly diversifying their portfolio for years with art. And honestly, fine art used to only be accessible to the super wealthy. But now, all of us have access to what JP Morgan has called one of the highest performing alternative assets. Masterworks has become one of the largest buyers in the art market today, and since 2017 has sold 3 paintings, each of them returning over 30% net IRR to investors. Now, legally, I have to tell you that past performance is no indication of future results, but just between you and me, without my lawyers watching me, over 30% is still very impressive. Over 400,000 people have already signed up to date to invest in an asset that outperforms both the S&P 500 and other asset classes during periods of inflation. There is currently a wait list to sign up, but if you go to masterworks.art/Joshua Mayo, you can skip the wait list and instantly start diversifying your portfolio. This right here is the real Mona Lisa. I stole it. Just kidding. Hey, click the link down below. Secret number 4, they don't try to time the market. People who have built million-dollar net worths understand that trying to time the market is a fool's errand. Really, the only type of investor who can make money by timing the market are day traders. These are people who buy and sell stocks, and they try to take advantage of the market volatility and capture small amounts of profit over short periods of time. However, there's a reason why 90% of day traders lose more money than they make, and it's because it's insanely difficult to time the market, and the 10% of people who can make money by timing the market either aren't profiting enough to make a sustainable living, or if they are making profit, are typically only right about 60% of the time, and the other 40% of the time they're losing money.
No! No! Stop! No! 124, no! No!
Millionaires like Ronald Reed understand that the best way to build wealth in the stock market is by taking a long-term buy and hold investing approach. In other words, when you buy a stock, you're buying it with the intention of holding on to it for the next 10, 15, 25, 40 plus years. This is what Grace Griner did. She worked as a secretary at Abbott Pharmaceuticals for 43 years. In her first year working for Abbott, she bought 3 shares, yes, 3 shares of Abbott stock for a total investment of $180. She then held on to the stock for the next 75 years and reinvested all of the dividend payments from the stock. Abbott stock split many times over, and together with her reinvesting the dividends, she died with over 100,000 shares of Abbott stock, valued at about $7.2 million. But the key takeaway here is that she bought the stock and then she held on to it. If Grace would have done what most investors do nowadays and bought those 3 shares of the Abbott stock at $180, but then 2 days later when the stock stock dropped to 170, she panicked and then she sold. If she would have done that, like most investors nowadays, she would have lost $10 instead of earning $7.2 million. Here's an interesting fact. Did you know that if you invested $10,000 into the stock market over the 20-year period between January 3rd, 2000 and December 31st, 2019, that if you would have missed even just 20 of the best days on the market, that your investment returns would be close to zero? And to add insult to injury, you're actually technically losing money due to inflation. And so this is why trying to time the market is a losing strategy. As the saying goes, time in the market beats timing the market. And this actually brings up a very critical point when it comes to investing in the stock market and trying to build your wealth on a low salary. Despite how little money you have, there's something that every millionaire does in the stock market that is completely free, that anybody can do, that will give you a drastically better chance of becoming a millionaire. And we'll talk about that in a second. Secret number 5 of millionaires is that they don't sell their investments when they drop. The market is like a roller coaster. It ebbs and flows, it has ups and downs, and anybody who's built wealth in the market understands this. And so when the stock market is experiencing a downturn, everybody in the news is saying that we're heading toward the next financial crisis. Millionaires understand that all of this is just hyperbole. In other words, they keep a cool head and they stay patient. They don't sell their investments because they understand that investing is a long-term game. And over the long term, investing in the stock market has always been a winning strategy. The average investor today, though, does not think long-term like this. When the stock market is hitting all-time highs, they're YOLOing all of their money into the stock market. But then, when the market is experiencing a downturn, they refuse to invest their money. And even worse, they sell their stocks for a loss. This is a losing strategy, and it's the reason why they will never be able to build wealth. Do you think that over the 75-year period that Grace was investing her entire net worth into Abbott Pharmaceuticals, that the stock just went up the entire 75 years? Of course not. Like every stock in the stock market, it experienced ups and downs, but she continued holding regardless, and clearly it paid off. Secret number 6, the one secret hidden in plain sight. If you were to take 100 millionaires, put them into a room, and try and pinpoint one thing that mostly all of them had in common, it would be this. They all have multiple streams of income. Their job, profits from a business, dividend income from stocks, rental income from real estate, other businesses, etc. But none of them only rely on one single source of income. And what's even more fascinating is that you can even see this same dynamic within companies. For example, Amazon isn't just in the e-commerce business with Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos was aware that only depending on Amazon.com to bring in revenue for the company was a very dangerous position to be in. Because what happens if Amazon.com were to disappear? What would become of Amazon? And so they did the smart thing and they diversified their streams of revenue. And likewise, millionaires understand this secret. And so they too focus on diversifying their income. And so how can you do the same? Well, the easiest way for you to start building multiple streams of income is by doing the following. Get a side hustle, preferably a scalable one, and start investing in dividend stocks. Let's talk about both. Over the past 4 to 5 years, every single major milestone that I've made financially in my life has started with a side hustle. My web development business, it started as a side hustle. My blog started as a side hustle. My website template business started as a side hustle. This YouTube channel, as you probably guessed, started as a side hustle. And I was able to scale all of these side hustles and use them to bring me to a new place financially. I've actually got a video coming out in a few days going over what I believe to be some of the best, most scalable side hustles that anybody can start with very little money. And by the time that most of you see this, that video will already be live on my channel, so check that out. In addition to a side hustle, investing in dividend stocks is another way to almost immediately start earning extra income. Dividend stocks are stocks that pay you dividends, and dividends are essentially just paychecks from a company. Certain companies will pay you money every quarter or sometimes every month for owning shares of their stock. And this is actually what Ronald Read did. He only focused on investing in dividend paying stocks. And so stocks like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan Chase, and over 90 other stocks. He then reinvested all of the dividends that he earned from these stocks back into buying even more dividend paying stocks, and then he just repeated this process over and over again, and that's actually what built his wealth. Secret number 7, millionaires care more about this more than investment returns. Everyone understands the importance of good investment returns. This graphic here illustrates the point. The graph on the left is what your savings would look like if you invested $500 per month over a 40-year period into a conservative, low-returning bond. The graph on the right represents your savings after 40 years if you invested more aggressively into the stock market with an average 8% annual return. The difference in return is over $1.3 million. And so, yes, investment returns are definitely important. But do you want to know what's even more important and what most millionaires focus on more? Their savings rate. Your savings rate is how much of your total salary that you save. And so, for example, if you saved and invested $2,500 of your $50,000 income per year, then your savings rate would be 5% because $2,500 is 5% of $50,000. However, what would happen if you increased your savings rate? And to make things even more interesting, what would happen if we compared someone who only saved, say, 1% of their income each year, but earned a whopping 10% investment return, to someone who saved 10% of their income yet only earned a 1% return? Who do you think after 30 years would have more money? Well, I'll let this chart tell the story. On this left column here, we have the rate of return from a low of 1% to a high of 10%. On this top row is the savings rate per year on a $50,000 salary. And so, for example, if you only saved 1% of your income every year, or about $500 per year, but earned a very high investment return of 10%, after 30 years, your investment would have grown to $91,776. However, if you saved 10% of your income, or about $5,000 per year, and still only got a lousy 1% return on your investment would still have grown to $174,673 after 30 years. Additionally, unlike your investment returns, which you have zero control over, you do have 100% control over your savings rate. Listen, building wealth on a low salary can be challenging, but with a little patience and discipline, it is definitely possible. But if you want to learn how you can start building wealth even with $0 in your name, then watch this video right here. You guys are amazing, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.